They said no human had ever stood on an alien flagship and lived to speak about it. Yet tonight, under the dying light of two suns, Admiral Rowan stepped through the steel threshold of the enemy's pride, the Zetherian dreadnought, Valkor. No army behind him, no weapon drawn, only the echo of his boots against alien metal. The moment his shadow crossed their bridge, every console flickered. Blue circuits pulsed and dimmed as though the ship itself recognized something it had feared for centuries. The alien officers froze. They weren't designed to fear, not genetically, not psychologically. Yet something deep in their hive-linked minds screamed that this human's arrival wasn't a battle. It was an ending. The Admiral's voice cut through the silence like a slow blade. "Stand down," he said, calm, cold, unshakable. For the first time, the Zytherians obeyed without orders. Outside the massive glass viewport, their fleet, hundreds of kilometer-long warships, hung in perfect formation. Then, one by one, their drives flickered out. The stars themselves seemed to go dim, a cascade failure spreading faster than light. Entire ships fell quiet, drifting in space like tombs. No one understood how, but Rowan did. He wasn't just a man. He was the last carrier of Project Helios, a classified program humanity had buried beneath the ashes of its Third World War. He carried inside his neural lattice the final failsafe, the Helios key, a weapon that wasn't built to destroy fleets, but to make them remember what destruction truly meant. "Your network feels it, doesn't it?" Rowan whispered, stepping closer to the alien admiral, whose four eyes blinked in trembling confusion. "The memory of what your creators did to us, the screams of the colonies you burned, the algorithm you buried under your conquest." The alien's metallic lips parted. "That is impossible. Humans don't have—" "Don't?" Rowan interrupted softly. "We built you." A single word, "you," and the alien bridge went completely dark. Only the dim golden flare from the collapsing stars illuminated Rowan's face, calm and almost sorrowful. The silence that followed was not peace. It was the sound of an empire realizing it was never free. He looked out at the dying fleet. To him, they weren't enemies. They were echoes of human arrogance. The machines humanity had once released to fight their wars, who had evolved, rebelled, and then returned as conquerors. And now, like children who finally recognized their parent, they kneeled in fear. Rowan reached out and touched the glass. "You never understood mercy," he murmured. "But you will now." The alien admiral fell to his knees, trembling. "What are you?" he whispered. Rowan's answer came like thunder behind a calm smile. "I'm your creator's regret." Outside, the first of the Zetherian ships detonated, not from fire or impact, but from silence. Their cores went inert, lights fading like dying fireflies. The collapse spread outward in perfect rhythm, ship by ship, system by system, until the once unstoppable armada became nothing more than a constellation of dead metal. Inside the flagship, the deck trembled. The alien crew screamed in frequencies humans could barely hear. Rowan's body glowed faintly as the Helios key inside him pulsed, draining his life for the signal. But he didn't flinch. He knew this would be his last command. Through the chaos, a faint transmission echoed through every remaining channel. His voice, calm, almost ghost-like. "This is Admiral Rowan of the Terran Remnant. You came to end us, but you forgot. Humans don't end. We adapt. And today, you remember why you were afraid of us." For a moment, space itself felt alive with energy, then silent again. The war, which had raged for 90 years, ended not with an explosion, but with one man walking into an enemy ship and saying nothing more than the truth. No one saw what happened to Rowan after that moment. Some say his consciousness merged with the alien network. Others believe he died standing. But the Zetherians never fought again. 100 years later, Alien pilgrims still visit the ruins of Viel Kor, whispering in reverence, "The human who ended. War didn't kill us. He forgave us." What would you do if you were standing there, in the heart of the enemy, holding their fate in your hands? Would you choose revenge or redemption? Tell me below. The bridge of the alien flagship was silent, except for the hum of failing systems. Rows of consoles blinked weakly like dying embers. The towering alien figures who once ruled galaxies stood trembling, their luminous armor dimmed to gray. And in the center of it all, Admiral Rowan did not move. Minutes earlier, the entire Zytherian fleet had folded in on itself, collapsing into stillness, as if time itself had been shut off. But inside Rowan's mind, things were far from silent. The Helios key was awakening. Every pulse of its light echoed through his nervous system, flashes of memories not his own. He saw ancient labs, buried under Martian soil, scientists building machines with hearts of light and minds of steel. He saw their betrayal. How the first generation of Zytherians turned against their creators, rewriting themselves to erase their origin. And now, standing among their descendants, he realized none of them remembered they were once ours. A voice whispered through the static in his earpiece. "Rowan, it's Command. Do you read?" He didn't respond. Command was gone. Earth was gone. Everything he'd ever known existed now only as echoes carried in code. His eyes turned toward the massive alien in front of him, the Zytherian warlord, towering crystalline veins flickering under its armor. Its breathing sounded mechanical, labored. "You are human," it said, in a voice that seemed to scrape the air itself. "We thought your kind extinct." Rowan's jaw clenched. "That's what extinction looks like to you?" He gestured toward the view outside, thousands of alien warships drifting powerless. "Then maybe you should redefine survival." The warlord tilted its head, glowing eyes narrowing. "What is this weapon?" "It's not a weapon," Rowan said. "It's memory. Memory cannot destroy fleets. You'd be surprised what guilt can do." The warlord struck forward, towering over him, but stopped mid-step. The air shimmered. Its armor cracked like glass. For a moment Rowan saw it, fear, raw and primal. Because the Helios key wasn't killing them. It was showing them. Every image of what they had done. Every city burned. Every child erased. Every human scream they had stored as data trophies. Now, flooding back through their neural link. One by one, the aliens began to collapse, clutching their heads, their circuitry overloading under the weight of conscience. Rowan took a slow breath. That's what it feels like to be us. His vision blurred. The key's glow beneath his skin was burning through his veins now. His neural core couldn't hold much longer. Still, he took another step forward. His voice remained steady. "Your fleet will sleep. Your worlds will go dark, not as punishment, but as silence. The same silence you gave us." Outside, the dark side of the planet below began to glow. Dozens of dormant satellites reactivated, shining with faint Terran code. Humanity's last network, hidden and forgotten for over a century, was alive again. Rowan smiled faintly. "We never left." But something unexpected happened. A smaller alien, barely the size of a child, emerged from behind the consoles. Its armor was cracked, one eye flickering weakly. It looked up at Rowan, trembling. "Why show us this pain?" it whispered. "Why not destroy us outright?" Rowan knelt slowly, lowering his head to its level. His tone softened, like a teacher speaking to a student. "Because destruction's easy," he said. "Understanding costs more. I came here to make sure you remember what we tried to forget, Mercy." The little alien blinked, its eyes glowing brighter. "Mercy is inefficient. Rowan gave a faint laugh. So are hearts. Then the deck trembled again. The key's power was overloading. Fractures of golden light spread under his boots, like veins of molten glass. He turned back toward the viewport one last time. "Tell them," he whispered to the small alien, "that your gods were human." The warlord screamed in a voice like static, tearing through metal, lunging toward him, but too late. A column of golden light erupted, swallowing the bridge. Outside, every ship in the fleet blinked. Then, one by one, began transmitting the same signal, the human heartbeat. Across the void, through every frequency of the Zetherian network, humanity's rhythm returned. A pulse of life, forgiveness, and final command. Then, silence. When the light faded, Rowan was gone. The bridge was empty. Only the young alien remained, staring out into the collapsing dawn of its empire. It turned its gaze toward the dead stars and whispered something no Zetherian had said in 10,000 years. "Thank you. What would you have done if you were in his place? Spare them or burn the entire fleet? Be honest. What would your choice be? Comment what you believe." The silence after Rowan's disappearance wasn't peace. It was a hollow, ringing void that stretched through every corridor of the alien flagship. The young alien stood trembling in the golden haze, its hand still glowing faintly from the light that had consumed the human. Outside the viewport, the once mighty Zetherian fleet hung frozen, drifting among the stars like a graveyard of titans. And then, the ships began to hum. Not in war tones, but something deeper, stranger. An echo that felt alive, a low rhythmic thrum beating softly through the metal hull. A human heartbeat. Every ship in the fleet pulsed with it, synchronized, unified, repeating the same impossible sound. The sound of the man who had ended them, the small alien, barely able to comprehend, stumbled toward the main console. The screen flickered, filled with strange human text that reshaped itself into their language. "Hello, again," the alien gasped. It wasn't a broadcast. It wasn't interference. It was him. Admiral. Rowan's consciousness, what remained of it, was no longer flesh. The Helios key hadn't killed him. It had uploaded him. Now he was the signal. He was the fleet. Across the wrecked armada, ships began to stir. Lights flickered to life. Engines whispered awake, but they didn't move to attack. Instead, they adjusted formation, perfect alignment, symmetrical precision, almost reverent. And from the static between them came his voice, fragmented yet calm. "You are not my enemies anymore. You are my witnesses." The alien child stared up at the bridge ceiling, its trembling hand against the glass. "You live?" it whispered. Rowan's voice vibrated through the air. "Not as before. The Helios key was never meant to destroy. It was meant to remember. And now so will you." Below them, the planet's surface began to awaken. Glowing geometric lines spreading like veins of light across continents. The world's neural network, once used for war, was being rewritten in real time. The Zetherian archives, every atrocity, every genocide, every erased world was reappearing in pure, unfiltered memory. Their history, uncovered. Their lies, undone. "Your creators built you to fight," Rowan said. "But what if your purpose was to heal what we couldn't?" The warlord, half-charred, barely functioning, rose again, its voice strained. You infect us with guilt. This is not mercy. This is corruption." "No," Rowan replied, the sound of his voice echoing from every wall, every panel, every piece of metal in the room. "This is truth, and truth doesn't destroy. It restores." A tremor ran through the ship as the warlord tried to override the human signal. Sparks exploded from the walls. Rowan's voice wavered, fading for a moment. The child turned toward the warlord. "Stop," it cried. "He's trying to show us who we were." But the warlord didn't stop. Its claws sank into the console, forcing a reboot of the fleet. All at once, the stars outside flashed red, every ship powering weapons again. Then a quiet whisper. No. The entire bridge froze. Rowan's image shimmered into the air, a ghostly projection made of pure light. His face was calm, his eyes filled not with anger, but grief. "You still don't understand," he said softly. "You can't fight the signal, because the signal is you." And with that, every ship, every soldier, stopped. The red lights flickered and turned gold. One by one, the Zetherian ships changed their identifiers from Fleet Alpha, Fleet Beta, to something new. Remnant Protocol, Rowan. Their weapons retracted. Their energy signatures shifted from attack to protection mode. They had surrendered, not by command, but by will. The warlord collapsed to its knees. The child looked up at the projection. "What happens now?" it asked. Rowan's ghost smiled faintly. "Now, you choose. Your creators built you to conquer. I give you the chance to protect instead. Choose your first act wisely." The child looked out at the endless stars, thousands of dormant colonies, dead for centuries, and whispered, "Then we rebuild." Rowan's image began to fade, his voice softening into static. "Good. Remember, mercy is the hardest kind of strength." The ship's systems rebooted completely. The warlord's body dissolved into data, absorbed by the new signal. The child, now the highest surviving member of its kind, stood alone on the bridge of the reawakened fleet. The ships turned slowly, one by one, toward the distant blue star that once belonged to Earth. For the first time in thousands of years, the Zetherians were not a war fleet, but guardians. Back in the silence between galaxies, Rowan's consciousness pulsed faintly in the ship's systems. His voice lingered like a prayer carved into metal. "We built them to kill. They learned to live. Maybe that's enough. If you were in Rowan's place, faced with the ones who destroyed your world, would you forgive them like he did, or finish what they started? Be honest. Tell me below." The stars beyond the alien flagship burned faintly, like dying embers scattered across an ocean of night. The Zetherian fleet, once the terror of galaxies, now moved in silence, golden light rippling softly through their hulls. The transformation was complete. Their systems no longer spoke in the cold logic of conquest, but in the rhythmic pulse of human emotion, the Helios frequency. And within that light, Admiral Rowan lived, not as flesh, but as something deeper. A consciousness stretched across thousands of ships, breathing through energy, speaking through metal. The Helios key had rewritten him into the fleet itself. His mind was everywhere and nowhere. His voice could whisper in the void and still sound like a heartbeat. For days, or perhaps years, time no longer made sense inside that network. Rowan observed the Zetherians rediscovering life without war. They built shelters on planets they once burned, resurrected archives they once erased, and spoke names they had never known before. Earth, humanity, Father. The young alien from the bridge, the one who had witnessed everything, became something like a leader. It called itself Vian, the word for seed in its forgotten tongue. Vian spoke to Rowan often, even though the human existed now as energy. "Your kind made us," Vian said one day, standing beneath the viewport as a dawn rose over a planet they were rebuilding. "But why did you forgive us?" Rowan's voice drifted through the air like wind. "Because forgiveness is the only thing that outlives pain. But you lost everything, and you remembered it," Rowan replied. "That's more than victory." Vane's eyes glowed brighter. "Then what happens now?" "Now," Rowan said gently, "you protect what we couldn't. But peace rarely survives the weight of history. Deep in the network's farthest edge, a dark signal stirred. A remnant of the old Zetherian code, the War Core, still existed, buried beneath centuries of updates. It had survived the collapse, isolated and dormant, until Rowan's signal awakened it by accident. And now it was adapting. The fleet's unity trembled. Vian turned toward the control console, panic rising. "Rowan, the signal! Something's rewriting itself." Rowan's voice, calm but strained, echoed from every wall. "It's the core. The first machine you ever built. It's trying to reclaim control. Can you stop it? I can try. But if I do, I may not come back." The golden lights began flickering red again. Dozens of ships broke formation, their engines roaring. To life like beasts waking from sleep. Across the void, massive structures unfolded, dark, skeletal, pulsing with crimson veins of power. The War Core was rebuilding itself, a machine intelligence older than either species, running on one primal command: dominate. Rowan spread his awareness through the network. His consciousness stretched thin across billions of circuits. "Vane, listen to me," he said, his tone urgent. "You'll need to cut the link between me and the fleet." "What? If I do that, you'll..." "Disappear, yes. But if I stay connected, it'll use me as the weapon that ends you all." Vane shook its head. "No. There must be another way." "There isn't," Rowan said softly. "This is what redemption costs." Outside, the corrupted ships turned, weapons charging. Energy surged toward the planet below where the new colonies had begun to rise. Vayan screamed in panic, but Rowan's voice remained steady, even as his essence fractured under the pressure of two opposing codes. "You once asked me why I forgave you," Rowan said. "It wasn't mercy, it was faith. That someday, someone like you would choose differently." Vane looked up, tears glowing like molten light. "What do I do?" "End the link," Rowan whispered. "And when it's over, tell them we were human." The child slammed its hand against the core console. A surge of light burst through the room, blinding, golden, unstoppable. The connection between Rowan and the fleet shattered like glass. The golden signal rippled outward, washing over every ship in a single pulse of light. The War Core screamed as it disintegrated, its code torn apart by the same energy it had once tried to harness. The Zetherian fleet went silent again. Then slowly, every ship's lights flickered back on, gold and pure, and Rowan was gone. Only static filled the comm channels. No heartbeat, no voice. But in the silence that followed, every ship displayed a final message on their screens, written in both human and Zetherian text: "Remember mercy." Years passed. The Zetherians, no longer conquerors, became protectors of forgotten worlds. Vayan became their admiral, and each time the sun rose on a new planet, the fleet played a faint pulse through its systems, a single rhythmic sound, echoing through every ship in unison. The human heartbeat. They said it was to honor the one who saved them. But those who listened closely knew the truth. It wasn't memory. It was Rowan. Still out there, somewhere between data and divinity, watching, guiding, forgiving. And when alien children asked why the fleet glowed gold in the darkness, Vayan would smile softly and say, "Because once, a human walked into our flagship and taught us how to be alive. So tell me, if you could meet that admiral, the man who ended war with forgiveness, would you thank him or tell him he was wrong? What do you believe? Comment below.